we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has said that and defended the steep tariffs imposed on India, claiming New Delhi had offered to reduce tariffs to zero, but that it was too late now. President Trump has posted on his Truth Social the hours after Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Prime Minister Xi Jinping at the SCO Summit, describing trade with India as a one-sided disaster. He alleged that while India sells massive amounts of goods to the U.S., American businesses struggle to sell to India due to high tariffs. Reiterating claims debunked by New Delhi, President Trump has said India had offered to cut tariffs on to nothing, but the move should have happened years ago. The U.S. has recently imposed a total of 50% duties on Indian goods, including a 25% levy for India's refusal to reduce oil purchases from Russia. President Trump's remarks come amid growing criticism of the tariffs, both domestically and internationally. Now, I'd like to go back to our guest discussion with David. David, what is your take on this now? How could Trump's framing of U.S.-India trade as a one-sided disaster influence any future bilateral negotiations?
Well, there aren't really any serious negotiations going on. I mean, it's important to understand that Donald, whom I've known and covered for almost 40 years, longer than any other journalist, he doesn't understand anything about issues involving trade. He flip-flops left and right. He claims powers he doesn't have, like to impose tariffs, as a court just ruled that he cannot do. So thinking about anything Donald does in terms of there's some policy here, there's a strategy underlying it, is a big mistake. Donald creates his own reality. He makes it up as he goes along. And if he needs to change the narrative, he just changes it. He's no different than a novelist who takes a page, tears it up, and rewrites it because a new narrative line is needed. Don't pay serious attention to the things Donald is doing in that sense, other than he has undone more than 30 years of U.S. efforts to try to wean New Delhi away from any meaningful relationship with the Kremlin, to try and make India directing in its thoughts toward Washington, not the Kremlin, not Beijing, but Washington. And Donald Trump's just blown that up in a matter of months.
Yes, indeed. And Scott, what's your take? Do you agree that Trump framing India, it doesn't matter as much, or like he can do this and change the next day?
Well, Trump's very mercurial, and that's part of the problem here. I mean, when you go back and look at his first term and the beginning of the second term, he had what seemed to be a very warm personal relationship with Prime Minister Modi. And a lot of discussions happened in the first 100+ days of the second Trump administration about the reshoring of America's supply chain, some of it coming out of China, coming back directly to the United States and rebuilding our industrial base, but the other part was reshoring into India. You know, India is one of the great leaders in the world on technology, on engineering, and industrial capacity. And so if you're trying to wean America away from its greatest adversary, China, and not everything makes economic sense to bring all the way back into the United States, India was going to be the next hub, the alternative hub. And all of this current rhetoric, this punitive 50% tariff on, secondary tariff on India to try to punish them for their relationship with Russia, it really just sort of puts everything back into chaos. And so I have no idea. I think most people are scratching their heads on what really is going to play out here as in the next 3+ years of the Trump administration in regards to U.S.-India relations. I mean, we're about to have a new U.S. ambassador to India who's a Trump intimate. There'll be confirmation hearings coming up in the next month regarding Ambassador designate Gore. And so the question is, is he going to be an enforcer and therefore further drive a wedge between the U.S. and India, or is he going to try to back channel and try to rebuild some of the relationships? He has no foreign policy experience, but he is a Trump intimate. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the confirmation hearings are all about and to see what he actually does as he tries to become part of a pivotal relationship between the U.S. and India.
Yes, and David, what's your take on that? Scott has said that the new ambassador has been assigned to India, who's an intimate of President Trump. Do you think this might change anything that look like the strained relationship between India and the U.S.?
Well, the ambassador designate, as Scott points out, has absolutely no experience in diplomacy. And the problem, one of the key problems with the Trump administration is that Donald surrounds himself with people who, based on their loyalty to him. He is the third generation head of a 4-generation white collar crime family. We have a number of these in the United States and other places around the world, as I teach my criminal justice students. They don't kill people, they steal with contracts and cronyism and corruption. And Donald's administration is full of people like this with no knowledge of diplomacy, no deep understanding of the intricacies of trade, of logistical supply lines. So I will be very surprised, assuming the ambassador is confirmed, and I'm sure he will be, that there will be anything particularly good that will come out of this. Donald wants ambassadors to interfere, as one of them has done in Denmark. He wants them to bully other countries, and he's not interested in doing anything that doesn't amount to world leaders turning to him, as he has claimed they do, and saying, "Oh, Mr. President, thank you so much for doing something that was terrible for their own country." Made up stuff of the kind Donald does, because he creates his own reality.
Thank you very much, Daniel Wagner also, and David K. Johnson for joining us, and also Scott Faulkner for joining us and staying with us throughout our news and sharing your insights. Thank you.